Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. My title has some heavily loaded words: decision makers, agility, alignment, optimization. And in the upcoming 10 minutes, I will talk about how we blend in those things together in ICRON. But first, I want to talk about this S&OP, or if you want to call it IBP, workflow that you have probably seen a million of times. So we start with some data gathering, so product portfolio, past sales data, promotions, supply capabilities, supplier supply capabilities, and so on. And then we have the demand review, where we need to sit together with the sales teams, marketing teams, finance has some input. And then you also need to learn from the past data because it gives you some predictions. You need to bring all these things together to create a consensus forecast. Hopefully, multiple scenarios. Sometimes it's also good to have at least one, right? Then we go to the supply review, where we need to combine this demand with the constraints that we have: production constraints, delivery constraints, again, supply constraints, supply capability constraints. We are trying to create some feasible plans, hopefully, again, multiple scenarios. So we are going from unconstrained demand to constrained demand. And then in the pre-S&OP, we have a number of scenarios. We play with those scenarios. We are trying to evaluate them and eliminate the ones that are probably suboptimal. And we want to get the ones that are possibly better for the company goals, for the KPIs. And in the executive S&OP, we make the decisions because the executives, they know where we need to go in the business, right? Where the target is. So this is the typical workflow. We are all familiar with that. Let's try to simulate that workflow, right? So think about that. We are at the beginning of the month. We start with some data gathering. It takes some time, of course, and then we go to the demand review. That also takes some time because we need to bring in all different parties. And then we start to do the supply review. We collect the constraints and so on. And then as we are doing that, we see the sales team is celebrating. There's a new deal. There's a big one. So what do we do in this case? We go back to the demand review. Do we go back to the demand review? No, we cannot go back in time. Hence the title of my slide: time only moves forward. So what we need to do, we need to revisit our demand plans, right? Because we need to change our predictions maybe, and then possibly we also need to change our supply allocations. Suppose that continues, right? So we are in the pre-S&OP stage. Then we get a phone call, supplier goes bankrupt. It's very sad, but we need to, again, revise our supply plans. And then we go to executive S&OP, and a world leader makes a statement about new tariffs. And then, okay, yeah, we need to go back and review our supply. So what is the moral of the story? So disruptions occur, yes. And if you are working in a linear workflow as such, your decision is postponed, right? You're not making the decision. So then does the life stop? No. Things are happening. Operations are operating still. So sales are making some phone calls, making promises maybe, and production people are producing some stuff. Are they aligned with the goals of the company? Nobody knows, and probably not, right? So then, what do we need? How are we going to do that? There, my three words come into play: alignment, agility, and optimization. So you need to be agile, sense and respond to the changes quickly and optimally while aligning with the company goals, strategic goals. It's very easy, right? So this is how we do it. So what we need is a dynamic workflow orchestration framework. right? So that we can empower the decision makers. So the word decision makers doesn't necessarily refer to only the executive decision makers, though. So decision makers can be other people in the organization. Remember, we were talking about people and the processes. Maybe we need to rethink the processes where the decision making actually can go to the other people in the organization. Right? This is very important. How you can enable those people? So you need this dynamic workflow. So how does this work? Data is there, always up to date, clean, corrected. Sounds like a dream. It's possible. You have tools to do that. And then there can be events, external events, like the ones that I mentioned, or some internal events. Somebody are making some decisions, they are taking some actions, right? So they will all trigger this dynamic workflow orchestration service. And that service deciding which of the decision processes need to be triggered. And those decision processes are actually deciding, okay, what do I need to do now? What should I calculate? What should I optimize, right? And these can be dynamically triggered and so on. And the decision maker has always the up-to-date information, which is all aligned with the company goals, KPIs, and whatnot, right? So what I describe here is basically the DNA of ICRON. This is what we do, right? What we have is a service-oriented, flexible architecture, which is synchronized end-to-end. When I say end-to-end, from demand all the way to the supply, from strategic level to the operational level, and powered by AI tools. Let me go back very quickly here. So the light blue boxes that I showed you, these are basically the agents, right? So these are the smart calculators, right? They are doing optimization, prediction, simulation, and whatnot, and they can be turned on and off as needed, and they can be added to the decision processes as needed. Have you heard agentic AI? Me too. So, as I said, this is the DNA of ICRON. And with ICRON, we have been creating some value for some time for some companies with this way of working. I will give you only two examples. One of them is from a consumer electronics industry. This is one of the biggest TV manufacturers in Europe. With ICRON, they could do S&OP preparation. They were preparing multiple scenarios within 3 hours. We are not talking about a monthly process. They meet at least twice a week, maybe on demand also, maybe more frequently, to make some critical decisions in an agile manner. And in the first year, they made financial benefits of millions of dollars. Another example is from a glass manufacturing company. This is one of the world's biggest. This is the only glass manufacturing company which is active in all of areas of glass manufacturing, and they have a vertically integrated supply chain. They have 7 different business units. When I say different, I mean very different business units. Some of them are B2B, some of them are B2C, some of them are doing manufacturing based on projects, some of them doing the manufacturing to stock, and so on. They have 300 plus global users. So with ICRON tools, they have a standardized as well as a diversified way of working. So this is only possible with the flexible service-oriented architecture that I just mentioned to you. This is all. Thank you. My name is Melis, by the way. So if you have any questions and comments, we can also talk. And my colleagues, Kio, Sean, and Freek, he was also somewhere here. So we are happy to talk to you about these things. Thank you.
Thank you.